You are all about talking about one of my favorite things to talk about, which are the 5 love languages. I love the 5 love languages.
I hear people trying to get ice.
In your house?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Our kitchen is literally right outside of my studio door.
Oh, I can't hear it.
Okay, you ready for part 3?
Ready. I love the love languages. Like it's my jam. I like to figure out what people's are.
Yeah. So jump in on it with me. I've got some different things people can do with their kids' love languages, but we'll talk about that. So, all right, here we go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. We are so excited that you have chosen to spend yet another day with Aby Rinella and I. Hi, Aby.
Hey, everybody.
So much fun. I wish that we had a camera on the other side of our camera to look at everybody who's watching. Like it would be the greatest thing. And you know what? We're all going to get to meet in heaven one day, but I wish that we could just all get together in one big conference room and have coffee together and snacks and yummy sugary snacks, not the healthy stuff. And we could have some healthy stuff, but there has to be sugar in there too. Anyway, and just have a fun time of just fellowship and getting to know one another on a personal basis. I love, because we're talking about love. I love hearing from our listeners. I love it when we get emails from you, when you respond to us on social media. We get messages sometimes through our Facebook page. Mm-hmm. It is such a blessing to get to hear from you guys and know how the Schoolhouse Rocked ministry is impacting your family. Because again, this is just all by God's grace. And we are so grateful for what he has called us to. And so continue sending in your letters. I do my very best to answer them when, as quickly as I can. And we want to help you. We want to encourage you, and we want to know how we can pray for you. So thank you for those of you who do that. And I want to say thank you to those of you who have given to the Schoolhouse Rocked ministry. I literally words cannot explain what an incredible blessing that is to us. I've said this so many times, and I won't stop saying it. We were never meant to do this alone, and we haven't done this alone. Whether you are a person who prays for us, which many of you do, if you give financially, if you, tell others about the podcast or about the ministry, whatever role it is that you're playing in this ministry, just know that you are an incredible blessing to us, and you are part of an amazing work of the Lord. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being part of this ministry, because you are part of it as well. And thank you, Aby, for all that you do and for being part of this. I love doing this with you.
Oh, well, this is an unbelievable blessing. And it's fun because I know that everybody listening, like, we're raising up a generation of kids that know truth. And I can't tell you how encouraging. And like you said, I'll get messages on social media from the listeners. And so often they start with, "I'm sorry to bug you," or like they feel weird to reach. And it's like, you guys have no idea what a blessing that is to just do life with you guys, and to know that you're on the other end, you're on the other side, because we're all in it together, and we're raising kids in the Lord. And so we're sisters in Christ. And so please continue to reach out, because honestly, it's a huge blessing and encouragement to us. So we love it. And so we're back today on Thursday talking about love. Yeah.
Is
that a song?
I don't know, but we can make one up.
If it isn't, it should be.
We'll write it. As soon as we push stop on this recording, we're going to write a song about love.
So you are all about talking about one of my favorite things to talk about, which are the 5 love languages. I love the 5 love languages. I love figuring out what my friends' love languages are. I have my husband pretty much dialed in. What my kids' love languages are, people I meet. And one of the biggest things we do that's a mistake is we love people according to our love language.
Yeah.
And we can't do that. We have to figure out what theirs is. So tell us about the love languages.
Well, since you're jumping into this so enthusiastically, I'm going to let you do this, because I'm like picturing you in the grocery store, talking to the lady behind you and sizing her up and being like, "So your love language clearly must be
Clearly.
gift giving. Would you
Oh my
like to
gosh,
give me a gift?
'cause you just gave me a pack of gum. Okay, but first, guess what mine is. Can you guess what mine okay, will you just say what they are real quick?
Okay, yes, yes,
Some
yes, yes.
people are like,
Okay,
"What are you guys talking about?" Like,
sure.
Spanish and English and, like,
Right.
some people think that the love language is what, French? It's not.
Portuguese, I know.
Portuguese. Oh.
So years ago, when Garrett and I were very first married, which, as I said in episode number 1 on Monday, we just celebrated 26 years of marriage on February 11th. I know, it's
We made it
amazing.
past a quarter century.
I know.
Like,
Isn't that
that's
crazy?
crazy. That
And we
is.
still actually, we are owed a serious anniversary celebration because of stupid COVID. We were
Ugh.
supposed to, we had this big plan for our 25th anniversary, and we were going to go spend a weekend away together. We were going to go see Shane and Shane in
Oh.
concert, who, let me just tell you
Ugh.
guys, if you have not heard Shane and Shane, they are
Amazing.
amazing. They are like hands
Absolutely.
down my favorite Christian duo ever. Like I could listen to them. I do
I love them
listen to
too.
them all day long. They're just fantastic. So if you have not heard Shane and Shane, go listen to them.
Ugh.
They will fill your heart and your spirit with all kinds of scripture and God's love. Anyway, so we were supposed to go see them in concert, and then COVID ruined it all. So we still, a year later, have done
Oh,
nothing. Oh,
nothing?
this is really funny too. Okay, I'm getting totally sidetracked right here, but this is a really funny thing. So right after our anniversary last year, we had the Homegrown Generation Family Expo, which was our
Great.
online conference. So we knew we couldn't celebrate until after that.
Which
Well,
has been
right after
almost
that,
a year
it was a
now.
year ago. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And as a matter of fact, it was a year ago this week. Oh,
Oh
that's
my
crazy.
yeah, 'cause of
Yes.
that yep, you're right.
Yep, it was a year ago this week.
Wow.
So right after that, we took our family had to take a 2-week sabbatical because we needed to just rest. And we have some very gracious friends who allowed us to stay in their lake house up in this little town called Alexander City in Alabama. And it's a small, small town. And so we went to this little cafe one morning, and Garrett and I said to the waitress, who was so sweet, and we said, we would like to celebrate our anniversary and just go have a nice dinner. And I said, what is the nicest restaurant in town? Now, again, this is a really small town in
Taco
Alabama.
Bell. Just kidding.
No, it's better than that. But she goes, well, there's a Ruby Tuesdays down the road.
Oh my
And it was
goodness.
so funny because we were like, oh,
Ruby Tuesdays.
okay.
Did you go?
No, we didn't go to Ruby Tuesdays. I
Oh.
think we ended up going to Mexican restaurant, which was really good too. We did. We went to Mexican restaurant. But anyway, all that to say, a year later, we still have not really celebrated our 25th
COVID ruined
because of
it.
COVID. And so now we're at 26,
Ugh.
and hopefully we'll get to do something soon.
You know
But
what? That happened to me. My 40th got
anniversary,
totally
you're not
no,
that
no.
old.
No, my 40th birthday. So now you
I
do know how old I
know.
am. It didn't exist, but here's the deal. They canceled everything in this nation, and so I canceled my 40th, which
Right.
means I gotta be 39 another year. So in April of
Nice.
this year, I've decided I will be turning 40
I
instead
love
of
it. Nice. So really what you're saying is this is my 25th anniversary instead of
this
my
is your
26th
25th
anniversary.
anniversary. Yeah. Okay,
All
you
right.
wanna claim every year of marriage that you can.
Exactly.
Not every year of aging,
It's true. It's true.
so claim your
So
26.
I'm claiming 26.
Okay, but what are your
Okay.
love
So,
languages?
okay. So going back to
Like
this, when
yeah,
we first got married, someone gave us this book called The 5 Love Languages.
yeah.
And I was like, what in the world is this? And it's a book that's by Gary Chapman. And I will put a link to this in the show notes because if you have never read The 5 Love Languages, it is one of those must reads. Just like for parenting, some of the must reads books are Shepherding a Child's Heart and Don't Make Me Count to 3. Like
Absolutely.
those 2 books, if you don't read any other parenting book, like those are the 2 that I think every parent should read. For marriage, I think The 5 Love Languages is one of the books. And so basically it goes through that every one of us has we show love in a specific way, and we like to be shown love in a
Correct.
specific way. And I'm going to run through them really quickly, and then we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk about them. So the first one, and these are in no particular order. The first one is words of affirmation. The second one is acts of service. The next is physical touch, then gifts, and then quality time. So those are the 5 love languages. We are going to take a very short break. We'll be back in a minute and we will talk more about these. Did you miss the 2020 Homegrown Generation Family Expo? If so, you can now have full access to the entire expo for just $10. You'll enjoy practical homeschooling encouragement, advice, and resources from many of your favorite homeschool leaders, including Kirk Cameron, Heidi St. John, Andrew Pudawa, Rachel Carmen, Dorinda Wilson, and many more. Here are just a few of the testimonials from those who have enjoyed this online conference. Rachel said, "Best homeschool conference I have ever attended, filled my soul and definitely God-driven." Katie said, "This was absolutely amazing. I've been so encouraged and blessed. The one thing that stood out to me about each session is that every single one pointed us back to Jesus, back to Him who is faithful." And another homeschool mom said, "Thank you so much for all the value provided at this price. We are a big family with a super tight budget. My husband was encouraged, the boys listened in too. A relief to find this resource at such an affordable price with so much value. Register today for lifetime access to the entire conference for only $10 at homegrowngeneration.com. That's homegrowngeneration.com. We are back and we are talking about the 5 love languages. And as I said before the break, I'll run through them really quickly. So we've got words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, gifts or gift giving or gift receiving, and quality time. Those are the 5 things. And so everybody likes to show love, and everyone kind of has their degrees of how they want to show love and how they like to be shown love
Yeah. So
towards
you could
those in their
probably
family.
label these 1 through 5. You have your primary, and then all the way down to 1 where you're like, I don't really have that. And you can have
Right.
a mix of a couple, but
Sure.
usually you have a primary and a secondary love language.
Yeah. So Abby, you said that you like to basically like play the love language game with people and
Because
figure
I
it
wanna
out.
know, how do you
Yeah.
I like to ask, how do you feel love? Because I wanna love you that way, because what I learned in that book is I tend to show love in a specific way,
Right.
and not everybody receives it in that way. So we have to learn, and this goes with our children, how do they feel love?
Hmm.
And then we have to be intentional about showing love in that way.
Right.
Um, and I have yet to meet a couple who have the same love language. God likes to match people with different love languages. I
Right.
think it's to stretch us and help us to love that
Yeah.
person better. But, I love to find out what people's love languages are so I can love them better.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting because as I'm looking at these, I think of my girls, and we're
Mhm.
talking about this in regards to our children and homeschooling and,
Mhm.
and building good relationships with our kids and with our husbands. And I have one who's, I mean, from the time she was teeny tiny, my oldest daughter, quality time is by far her love language.
Mm.
She would sit down. She was so little, like I can still picture it in my mind, and she would pat the floor next to her.
Mhm.
But it was before she could even speak. She would just pat the floor next to her, and that meant she wanted me to come sit next to her and play with her. And can I tell you, she's 15 and she still does that. She will
Aw.
literally, like, she'll sit on the couch or she'll go lay on her bed and she'll pat it next to her. I don't even know if
Aw.
she realizes that she does that. And it
And
always
she's
means,
saying,
"Come sit
"Be
with
with
me. Come like
just
just
yeah,
come be with
be
me."
with me."
That's what she
I
wants. But her least favorite love language is physical touch. So she wants me to be with her, but she
but
does
not
not want, though she is more touchy with me. Like she
right.
likes cuddles with me and stuff. But even as a baby, she didn't really like that very much. But she just kind of wants her own space.
Yeah,
Like she'll give me quick hugs, but
right,
she's not the one
right.
who's going to cuddle up next to me.
I have one
My
of those.
my youngest, hers is physical touch.
Aw.
She loves hugs and snuggles, and she's the one who, just at any point of the day, like she just will come up and give you a big, huge hug. And she craves it. Like she needs hugs
Mm,
from mommy and daddy and her sister. And that has oftentimes caused conflict between my 2 girls because I have one who loves hugs and physical
right,
touch and one who does not. And so Brooklyn is learning to love her sister by giving up herself and
right,
hugging her sister, even though it's not natural to her.
right,
And at the same time, Lacey's having to learn her boundaries, like her sister's
right.
boundaries, and saying, "Can I hug you?" Or can, like, "Brooklyn, I really need a hug from you right now." And it's fun to watch them figuring this out
Yeah, that is
together as
so
sisters.
neat. Yeah.
So what are your kids? Have you figured them all out yet?
Well, it's pretty easy with some of them. Like, physical touch kids are very easy to tell that that's their
Yes.
love language. And my son is very physical touch, where my oldest daughter, that is, like, the least of hers. Like, when she was a baby, she would, like, nurse, and the second she was done,
Mhm.
she was, like, naturally just pushing herself away from me
Yep.
at a brand new baby. It was such an interesting thing. And then now that he's older and he's a boy, it's so funny because Jesse will walk in the door and he'll just, like, take him out, like, just punch and wrestle. And because for him, that his love language is physical touch and everything. He's just always, there's a hand on you, or there's a and, so that's him very much. They also, I feel like with kids, and tell me if this is right, you can tell what they are, but they can change a little. Like, all my kids gave gifts when they were little. They all like
Mm.
to leave things on our bed.
Mhm.
But as they've gotten older, you can tell. So I think I've pretty much figured it out. The kids' book, The 5 Love Language for Kids, have
Mhm.
tests in there. So,
Yeah.
they help you to know.
Right.
Um, my love language is so, it's like the only thing it is. And what's funny about Jesse and I is my number 1 is his number 5.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I am a words of affirmation through and through. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just, that's 100% me. And he does not need a single word of affirmation ever, 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 ever. Like,
Interesting.
I never told him I loved him. Like, I'll tell him, I'm like, "I love you." And he's like, "Oh, okay." Like, he doesn't know what to do with it. He's like, "Clearly you love me. We're married." So it's so funny, but he is a quality time. He just wants
Mm.
me with him 24/7, but not
Yeah.
talking. He's made that clear. Be with me, but we don't need to talk. Just be near me.
'Cause he's not a words of affirmation
'Cause he's
guy.
not words. He just wants your presence, you
Yeah.
know? So the too much talking, that's why I talk to you. Just kidding.
But you know what? It's so good to understand that, because you realize that even though words of affirmation is not his love language, that's like
Right,
way low. I mean, that's the end of his
right.
list. Through other things, through him wanting to spend time with you,
Constant, yeah.
that he loves you, even though
He
he
totally
doesn't need to say it. In his mind, he's
Nope.
like, and let me tell you, it's funny you say that. Um, okay, I'm not putting down anyone who renews their wedding vows.
Right,
But from the beginning of our marriage, Garrett has always said, we will never renew our wedding vows, because I meant them the first time.
right,
Why would I need to say them
right.
again? Like, I
And
said it
he's
once.
not a words of affirmation person, is he then?
He
Little bit?
is, it's not the top of his list. Quality time is
Right,
actually the top of
yeah,
his list. He loves to be with his family. He is not the man cave kind of guy. He does not
right.
want a man cave.
That's
As a
how
matter of
Jesse
fact, he
is.
has his studio that he works in, and he doesn't like he loves working in there, because it's set up for him to be able to work really
Right.
effectively, but he can only be in there for such a short time before he has to get up and just come and be with us, just see
He
us.
That's
He loves quality time, and so I
yeah.
love that about him. I like that he likes to
Right.
spend time with us. um,
And so the reason this is important is because each of our kids, it's different.
mhm.
Just like it took me a long time to learn with Jesse, like, just sit in the garage with me while I'm working on things, but I don't need you to talk. I just want you
Right.
near. So that helps me to know that, because
Yep.
that helps me to love my husband well.
Yep.
And that's what God wants us to do, is sacrificially. And he knows now about with me that I'm a words of affirmation. So he has to intentionally, shoot me a text that says, "I love you." And
Yeah.
so with our kids, it's so important to learn these things, because sometimes we assume that our kids are feeling loved, because
Mhm.
I will tell my child 800 times a day, "I love you." Because to me, if someone did that to me, I would feel so loved. My cup would be full.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, I'm like, there's a disconnect between my child and I, which is weird, because I just told them how much I love them, and I showered them with words for an hour and they glazed over. How can they not feel loved? And then you learn, well, that isn't how they feel loved. They don't need to hear that. They don't want to hear that.
Mhm.
But if I would just go sit and color for 20 minutes with that
Yeah.
child, it is or if I would just buy them, not even buy them, but if I'm out on a walk and I find a cool little rock and
Yeah.
I bring it home to one of my children, it's like that, then they
They
feel
light up.
loved.
Yeah.
Yes, and so it's important as a mom not to assume that our children are feeling loved because we are showing it our way, but that
Right.
we really discover who God made them and how we can show them love so that they feel loved. Because isn't that the goal, is that they are feeling love, not that I think I'm giving them love?
Right, 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 right. And this goes back to what we were talking about in the last episode of that, if especially if you have a child and there's a disconnect
Mhm.
between you and that child,
Yes.
really work on trying to figure out what that child's
What?
love language is and work really hard to meet their love
Yes.
language that way. And so I'm going to give a few different things before we end because we're almost out of time. I'm just going to kind of rattle off a few things. And I found a printable chart. Most of these are from that chart, and I will put a link to it. It's actually just a printable chart that I found on Etsy, and it's really cute. It's like $3. And so most of these are taken from there. I added a couple myself, but I'm going to kind of go through each love language and then just rattle off some things that you can do for your child if that is their love language, or for your husband. So words of affirmation. Here are some things that you can do for that child. Compliment them, encourage them, express appreciation, give a card or send a text, tell them that you love them, like Aby, tell them that you're proud of them.
Mhm.
This is a big one. Actively listen to them. So words of affirmation don't have to be you speaking, but oftentimes it's letting them speak.
Mhm.
Um, just listening to them, giving them your undivided attention. Put a note under their pillow. It could be just a simple, I love you, I appreciate you, you did a great job today on, dishes, or, thank you for loving your sister today, whatever. And then notice their efforts and acknowledge them in front of others. So those are for those whose words of affirmation is their love language.
So
The
can I
next one,
interject really
yes,
quick?
of course.
So moms, so that you know this, how are you gonna know? Well, do these things, and if you see that your child is lighting up and that they are pressing into you, that they are drawing near to you, that your relationship is growing closer, if you do the list that Yvette just gave, then chances are you're getting the clues that this is their love language. If you're doing all those things and you're kinda getting, like, no response,
A blank stare.
then yeah, a blank stare, like, then and I get that. Then move on to the next one, and
Yep.
you will know, but you might have to be consistent. It's probably not just a one-time deal,
Right.
but you will know because their demeanor will change. You will see
Yep.
them feel loved, and
Yep.
you'll notice that you will grow closer with your child when you do these things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The next one is acts of service. So if this is your child's love language or your husband's love language, here are some things you can help um, show them love by doing. Help them clean their room, make them meals. I love that one. Help them get out the door on time. So if you guys are rushing off to co-op or to church or to a friend's house or whatever, help them instead of saying, hey, get this done, get that done. Help them. Help them with their schoolwork. Bring them a drink of water or a snack. Help them with their chores. And then I love this last one, tuck them in at night.
Oh.
That's just a sweet one. That's just something
Mhm.
that, those acts of service kids, they need mama at the end of the day to just
Right,
go tuck them in.
right.
Um, the next one is physical touch. If physical touch is their love language, physical touch is high on my one daughter's list I told you,
Mhm,
and all of these things she would love. Comb their hair,
mm,
scratch their back, rub their feet, cuddle and read a story, tickle them,
mhm.
pat them on the back, sit near them, welcome their hugs and kisses, do group hugs, high fives, and hold hands with them.
I
And I
love
love
that.
the holding hands. I my
That's
my
so
10-year-old
great.
still holds my hand and I love it.
I love that, and, for dads and boys, because I have a son that's a physical touch, and I'm starting to think my six-year-old daughter really likes to anyway, what you'll see is often with sons, wrestling for a
Mhm.
dad or,
Yeah.
like, fake box well, I don't even know, I'm such a mom, like, that doesn't even occur to me, like, because 'cause I'm not gonna do that with my son because he's gonna learn he doesn't do that with mom, but
Right.
as a dad, that does fill their physical touch need because
Yeah.
especially as they get older, your 14-year-old son might not feel comfortable snuggling and some of them do because that is their love language, but don't think that their love language isn't physical touch because they're punching you, dads, because
Right.
sometimes that is how a boy's physical touch, just so
Sure.
you know, it looks different with
Right.
boys and fathers than it does with
Sure.
mothers.
And sometimes it could with brothers with
and
brother
brother.
against brother
Absolutely.
if it's not being done in anger.
Yeah, if they're just having fun wrestling, that just
Yes.
is getting that, and then there is that boundary of like, no, you can't wrestle your sister. You're gonna have to you're just gonna have to
Right.
hold her hand
Yes, 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 yes.
to fulfill that need.
That's
But
a great
anyway,
reminder.
yeah.
So the next one is gifts. So here are some ideas for that. Make their favorite treat. Give a thoughtful gift on an ordinary day. Plan presents that fit their interests. Send the mail when you're away. That one's fun.
I
If
love
you
that.
go on a weekend away or a mom's
Yeah.
retreat or a homeschool conference, whatever, send them mail or leave them a little gift.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's so funny you said this because it's on the list, Abby. Give them a flower or a pretty rock, and
Oh,
you
from
you
your
said
walk.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that
Just
funny?
take a walk, and if you find a pretty seashell or a pretty rock or pretty flowers along the side of the road, whatever.
Oh, I have
Um,
a friend that did that. She came home from a walk and she brought her child a flower, and she goes, 20 seconds went by and it was in the garbage, and she goes, "Well, I guess gifts isn't their love language." Like,
well, that's
safe to say.
safe to say.
But you know
Uh,
what the kid said? "Mama, can I please go with you next time?" And I said, "You know what?
oh,
Quality
quality
time.
time. That's
They'd
right.
rather go with you than have you bring them something home."
Yeah, yeah. Remember special occasions and celebrate them.
Oh,
And then appreciate their gifts, because how
yes.
often do our kids make us, little things,
Mhm.
and they're so proud of it and they bring it to us and we're like, "Oh,
I'm
thank
gonna file
you."
that in the old file cabinet.
Right, right. So appreciate their gifts. And
Yeah.
then the last one is quality time.
Mhm.
Quality time, I think, is an easy one because it's kind of just self-explanatory, but um, give your undivided attention. And that's hard, especially in our day and age with cell phones and the internet and social media and blah, all the stuff that
Yeah,
clutters our time in our brains. But put your phone down, put your
yeah.
computer down, and give your child your undivided attention.
Yeah, you say it's
Um,
easy, but you know what? As moms running households, we have 1,000 things to do. It's
yes,
easy to figure out it is easy, but you know what? We don't make the time to do it,
right,
and that
right.
is really that screams li basically, for someone that's quality time, if you don't spend it with them, you're saying,
Yep,
"I don't love you." I mean, honestly, that's what they're
right.
hearing.
That's what they hear.
"I don't love you enough to put down my to-do list and sit with you
Yes.
and play Play-Doh," or
Yep,
whatever.
yep. Um, do chores together, bake together, ask them about their day, make eye contact, play with them or do a craft with them. Go on dates. This one is a great one. We really try to do that with our kids individually. Play board games with them. Another thing that we love to do. As a matter of fact, we're going to be doing an episode pretty soon here, airing an episode about game schooling. So we're going to talk all about playing games. Bike rides together, go for walks together. And then I love this one, especially for teenagers. Stay up late at night with them and let them talk. I
Yes.
heard that this was a thing before my girls were teens, or before my oldest was a teen. And it's true. Like
Mhm.
11 o'clock at night is the time that she
It
wants to
it's so
talk
hard.
about all the things. And
Yep,
I'm like, okay,
yep.
this is what we're doing.
Ugh.
But
And you've
it's
gotta be there
great.
and show up.
Yep.
Like, my oldest, it's just that again, that circadian rhythm shifts in those years, and
Yep.
she wants to play cards at, like, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, "I don't want this isn't," but then I have to stop and go, "This for her is loving her." Like,
Yes. Yes.
this is telling her, "I love you," and
Yes.
so we have to do it. We have to
Yep.
slow down and do it, and the quality time people too, we have to make sure we do it one-on-one, because the quality time people tend to like the not quality time in a big group, but
Right.
quality time with you and
Just
just
them.
them.
Yes, yes. And I know that these things are hard to do if you have multiple kids.
Yes.
I have two, so it's not as hard for me, but I have a lot of friends who have, five, six, seven, eight kids. And so I know it would be hard to do these things. So it doesn't mean you have to do them every single day for every single kid. I mean, that's
Right.
impossible. But maybe write it down, keep a chart. Connie Albers is one who is really good at stuff like this with her kids. Like, she had journals for each of her kids and
Yes.
she would write down the
So cool.
things that made her kids tick. She would write down, just special things about her
Right,
kids, because she's like, I had five kids. I had to remember, like,
right.
who loves spaghetti the most and who loves brownies the most, and who
Mm,
love language is quality time and whose is acts of service. And
great.
so she don't think that you have to be super mom and remember every single
Right.
person's love language and special needs. Write it down and keep it, in your top drawer of your dresser, wherever. And, maybe once a week,
Yeah.
find time to meet the needs of that child. Maybe like Monday you could have one kid and do something. It can be
Right.
10 minutes or 5 minutes, but be intentional about it.
Yeah. And on one
And
hand, you said, well, it's hard with a lot of kids to do this, but I think actually when you learn their love language, it saves time because
sure.
you're not pouring a lot of stuff into a kid who doesn't care. Like, I don't need to do all the things for all 3 kids, so
Right.
it saves me time because that kid really doesn't care if I make them a neat craft or if I help them clean their room. So
Right.
you kinda are saving time by narrowing it down to how does this kid feel loved, and then get rid of everything that they don't feel loved from.
Right. Right. Exactly. So anyway, well, we are out of time. We have gone way
Yeah,
over, but I
yes, we
hope that
have.
this has been encouraging to you guys. If you have not read the Five Love Languages books, actually, so there's the original one that's called the Five Love Languages, and then there's the Five Love Languages for Children, and then there's another one that's the Five Love Languages for Teenagers. And actually, there's more than that. I mean, it goes on and on and on, but those would be the 3 main ones. I will put the links to those 3 books in the show notes. And for those of you who may not know, whenever we put links for books or DVDs or anything like that in the show notes, those go to our Amazon affiliate account page, and you pay the same amount. But that helps to support the Schoolhouse Rocked Ministry. So if you buy things with those links that we leave in the show notes, that actually helps us financially. I mean, we don't get rich off of it, but
You'll get another episode of us out of it.
Right. It does help pay for the gear and all the things that it takes to make this podcast. So we would love it if you do that and just help support us in that way. So anyway, I will link to all of these things in the show notes so that you have easy access to them and check them out for sure. So thank you guys again for listening today. Please share this podcast with a friend or a family member who you think would be encouraged by it. And again, we love you guys. Thank you for listening today. Thank you, Aby, for being with me again today.
And for goodness sake, go love on your family now, everybody.
Go love them. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you back here on Monday. Bye.